Optimism is a key sales trait that we test for in our legendary SalesCode assessment. And why do we test if you're optimistic in our SalesCode assessment? Because if your natural state isn't one of being an optimist, which we define as an optimist, right, is a person who is inclined to be hopeful and expect good outcomes, whether it's in sales, out sales, or whatever it is. If this is not the case for you, then you're never going to send a cold email, you're never going to make a prospecting call, and you're never going to ask for the business. If you are a pessimist, you're going to avoid doing all of those things because you're going to assume that, well, you're just not going to have any success at them. And this leads to a vicious, destructive cycle. So if you, I'll draw you, there's you, beautiful there, you've got an extra long body for some reason. But if you do not prospect for new business because you're pessimistic about winning it, so you think, why should I make the phone call when they're probably not going to answer, then you're not going to win any revenue. You're not going to drive any revenue for your organization, which leads then to a feedback loop of you feel more and more pessimistic and lacking optimism that anything's going to happen. And this is all happening whilst the person sat next to you in the office who perhaps they have worse sales skills, perhaps they have less industry experience, and maybe they work far less hours than you, but they have success because they're optimistic about winning the sale. So they make the calls because they're optimistic about getting someone who's going to pick up and be happy to speak to them on the other end of the phone. They drive the revenue, which leads to a positive feedback loop over and over at this point of more optimism and more success, whilst you're sat there miserable, being pessimistic about everything, watching them succeed. Is that you? If so, if this grabbed your attention and you want to improve your levels of personal optimism because you want to be more successful in your sales role, then stay tuned. So what makes someone an optimist, or what makes someone a pessimist, is the way that they describe the world that they live in. So when optimistic people, we split this up, when they have bad luck, they see it as, well, fleeting, right? They see it as temporary. Whereas pessimists, on the other hand, they see it as long lasting. And then this all gets turned on its head when we talk about good luck, because optimists see this as long lasting and pessimists see this as temporary. So does this ring true for you? Are you an optimist who sees bad luck as temporary and good luck as long lasting? Or are you a pessimist who, I'll choose a red colour here, who sees bad luck as long lasting and good luck as temporary? Which one are you, right, using these definitions? Because if you are a pessimist, well, we've got some work to do, right? And let me give you a few examples here, because a pessimist might say, well, I never get any good sales leads. Now, the language here is suggesting that the pessimist thinks that he's in a long-lasting and uncontrollable battle with whoever is providing sales leads to them. Whereas an optimist might be in exactly the same situation, and they say, well, I just don't have the best sales leads right now. So do you see how this is temporary and within their control, because they're saying, I don't have the best sales leads right now. So with all that said, the first thing you need to do to become more optimistic in your sales job, if you're using this kind of pessimistic self-talk and you're seeing bad luck as long-lasting and you're seeing good luck as only being temporary, is to change the self-talk and the language that you use. You need to pick it carefully. Don't try and convince yourself that bad events are permanent and out of your control, because there's always something that you can do about them. There's always something that you can do to improve your situation. Always. The other thing that makes salespeople pessimistic at work and holds them back from reaching their selling potential is the pervasiveness of their thoughts. So pervasiveness is the belief that something is being present and noticeable in everything or every place. So for example, a pessimist might believe that, well, all sales managers are idiots. Their thoughts on sales managers are pervasive, right? Versus an optimistic salesperson might think, well, Brian, my current sales manager, well, he's a bit of a tool. So do you see how this is less pervasive? He's focusing on the one element of data that he knows, Brian, versus the pessimist is being very pervasive and saying all sales managers are complete idiots. Well, let me give you another example. The pessimist might say, I am disgusting. Versus an optimist might say, well, when I've not had a shower in the morning, I feel a little bit disgusting. So do you see how the pessimist viewpoint here, it takes on that little bit of a negative thought, which might have a grain of truth to it, and then it relates everything else to it. It makes a mountain out of a molehill, to use that analogy. So don't allow yourself to do that. And you're going to be much more optimistic as a result. So if you want to become more optimistic in your sales job, I've got 2 takeaways for you. First off, I want you to start seeing spots of bad luck as things that you control. They are not permanent. They do not have to last a long time. Your bad luck, it's very likely fleeting and temporary. Unless you've just been in a massive car accident and you've lost both your legs, fine. You're having bad luck right now. That's okay. You can deal with it. But in a sales role, it's not permanent and it doesn't last a long time. Additionally, I want you to compartmentalize any bad luck that you do have, because look, just because you've had a sucky day at work, it doesn't mean that when you get home, you're going to have a crappy evening as well. I want you to reduce or eliminate the pervasiveness, because one thing does not affect everything. And when you put these 2 things into practice, you're going to get rid of this idea of bad luck. You're going to become more optimistic and you're going to have much more success a lot faster in your sales career. And so there we have it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And why not click one of the videos that are on the screen right now to continue your own sales education.